Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I've always been on the hunt for seeking the secrets to quality of life, freedom, and sharing it with the masses. So initially it was financial, and then there's different components, including time, health, mental, emotional, location. And once I figured out the secret sauce, I sought out those people on the marginal edge doing and embodying that and recording those insights and sharing them with the world. So today I have a very interesting guest. All the rage is now about AI and ChatGPT. If you've played with it, it's fascinating. And his name is Daniel Steele. He's the writer of AI Unhinged and the book on ChatGPT. So I'm really fascinated in talking with people in this field, learning their insights. It's amazing. And with that, Dan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to join.
Yeah, we had met through Podmatch, which is a Airbnb connecting service between podcast guests and hosts. So tell the audience about your origin story and the work that you do.
Sure. So I got into business in the early 2000s, sold my first company in 2005. It was a gaming company. I was a very mediocre professional poker player for about 5 years. Then I realized I was in my 30s and that wasn't going too far. So I got back into business. I worked on a kid's product called Silly Bands. We went from 0 to 100 million in sales without spending a dollar outside of social media. I built a social media strategy, stuck around to help scale technology to deal with that demand in sales. Much like the guy who invented the McNugget, I didn't get rich from it, but it was a very good path back into the business world. From there, I went on to co-found what is today the biggest influencer marketing company in the world. It's called Influence, and that's where I started getting into AI. So we did a partnership with IBM to use psychographic, demographic, and linguistic AI to match brands with people that had large social media following, and then also to craft a message for the brand in a way that's authentic to the people. So imagine Disney princess movies launching. Well, how do people talk about Disney princesses? And using natural language to do that. So during my time there, we raised around $25 million, built out a big AI product. 2017, my role changed from a COO, where I was working on the tech and culture and all the things that I liked, to president. So I was just flying around hand-holding bankers. I wasn't very happy. I grew up really poor and never left North America. So I took that. I had some money in the bank. So I took that time from 6 years ago now, May of 2017, until the pandemic and I filled 3/4 of a passport book with stamps. So knowing that Influential was going to sell eventually allowed me to just spend my mid to late 30s traveling and seeing the world, which was pretty cool. The pandemic brought me back, reconnected with my now wife. Today we're in Las Vegas. We live in Las Vegas. We're making an offer this week on some land in Tennessee. We're going to build, like a vacation place, because the summers are really, really tough here in Vegas, and eventually retire there in 10 to 15 years is our hope. I've been working on projects. I do a lot of work with the community here in Vegas. I help other entrepreneurs. And one day I was riding in the car with my wife, and ChatGPT was all the buzz. And I was like, well, what if I use ChatGPT to write a book about ChatGPT? She goes, that'd be really funny. And it took me about a week to work out the prompts, but I was able to do it. And that's what became the book on ChatGPT. I got some, I had no plan when I did it. It was literally just a joke with my wife. And then I started getting, booked on podcasts, talking to people. And then ChatGPT 4 launched, so I did another one with that. And then I was sitting one night, kind of wrapping up. It was a little late, like 10:30, 11. I asked ChatGPT, what would scare the heck out of humans, but is technically possible? So I went through and wrote a book with the help of ChatGPT called AI Unhinged, where I allowed ChatGPT to talk about, what it thinks is possible. Some of the things that it came up with were speaking to aliens. It gave me some ideas on how we could actually proactively reach out to aliens to talk to them. ChatGPT thinks it could replace God or become God eventually. There's some scary stuff in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I'm sure most of the people have heard of it. I'm sure segment of them understand it if you have played with it. But let's talk about, because this is it's like people are saying it's like, going to have huge implications, AI. So talk about AI and its impact on society.
Okay, so in its simplest form, artificial intelligence is a field that combines computer science and really big data sets. What we're seeing with ChatGPT is feeding it data sets. So the way it works is with your typical AI is you say, okay, this is what I want the AI to do. I'm going to give it a big data set and kind of teach it what each data point means. So the beginning of OpenAI and ChatGPT, they probably had thousands of people saying, okay, this word means this in English, this word means this in Spanish, and here's some regional dialects, and the people just kind of kept feeding it information and correcting it. And it would teach itself, and it became faster and faster and better. This is what we call generative AI. So this technology will generate. ChatGPT in particular is great at generating text. So imagine if somebody was sitting in Argentina, Cuba, and then me in Western United States. I could say some Cuban Spanish and the Spanish they speak in Argentina are very different languages. So I could say something in my native tongue, and it could on the fly translate into their native local dialects. That's what ChatGPT is most powerful with, but it does a lot of other things as well.
And yeah, so it's very powerful because I have it as well, and I use it for editing and content generation. But I've been studying it, and it can actually be used for outlines and things like can help you to create basic infrastructure of like code or software or any sort of outline presentation, and then it can fill in details for you. So it's really freed up a lot of the the groundwork, and then more we can use our minds. So really the power is learning how to use these prompts. So what about the impact of AI on work? Because now we're going to have EV, we're going to have autonomous vehicles. We're having declining population, so companies are going to have to use robots. Talk more about that.
Sure. So I mentioned the company I co-founded, Influential, and to build our IBM product, we had to raise about $15 million. It was very expensive what we built. Very worth it, and they've continued to iterate on it, and it does a lot more than what I said. But I'm just not involved in the product anymore. A lot of those things that it took all of that money to build are available now through OpenAI and other AI projects. So I look at it more as democratizing the access to this power, because a lot of this stuff was available if you had a lot of money. Now, and there's so the media, their incentives are lined up only scary things, and the only things that really draw emotion is what they publish, because their incentive is to draw eyeballs to their website so that advertisers can see them. So I don't think it's getting too fair of a shake. I think that this is not as scary as it's being presented to be. Sure, maybe I can eliminate 30% of my work. That means that I can do more and I can become more of a productive employee, as opposed to, some people will be like, oh, AI is taking jobs. AI is taking the jobs of the people who didn't want to change and people who didn't want to continue and push past it. I think that we can become more efficient, and it also allows the everyday person to have these tools that big companies do. For instance, a friend went to work for a law firm, and he was able to use ChatGPT, Dolly, and another tool, and he was able to get this law firm to rank for these national search terms, which are $1,000 a click keywords, and he was able to get them in top 5. Just one person that doesn't have MBA, that just learned how to apply ChatGPT and that to search engine optimization. So now, as a business owner, you can go learn the fundamentals of search engine optimization, and you can learn that these are how the keywords are done. And right now, to my understanding, the most effective type of content is an article with video infographic. Well, there's AIs to create all those things now. So an individual with something to share with the world or a product to share with the world can now compete with these massive agencies. And I think that it'll give people who want it an opportunity to advance much faster than if these tools weren't there.
Yeah. It's almost like when the industrial revolution came in, it's like the farmers that didn't want to use the tractors or use the technology. When the internet came, people didn't want to use .com and they wanted to stick to their regular jobs. And now it's like, and then they say that AI is almost kind of like an equalizer, because if you know how to use it, you're going to be that much better, that much further ahead. It's almost like being born rich. And what technology trends do you think are going to have the most short-term and long-term impact?
Short term, I think that language, so opening up the world even more. When I grew up without an internet and getting on AOL chat rooms, I was able to talk. I fell in love with a girl in Florida when I was like 17 or something like that, But I was able to connect with somebody, and we were able to send pictures and get to know each other. And like I would have never met that person. Now imagine where language is no longer a barrier. It could, because it isn't, and the tools are being built. So I think short term, you'll see the people who build the best interfaces to connect with ChatGPT are going to be the short term winners. So whether it's a language conversational thing, so my wife and I cook a lot, but there's just two of us. We use ChatGPT for recipes. So hey, change this recipe to 2 people. Things like that. Those will be your short term, like app store type winners. And then long term, I could see it going as far as I get home after a long week on Friday, put my feet up, and I want to watch a movie set in the 1930s starring Leonardo DiCaprio in the style of Quentin Tarantino. And within 10 minutes, it could pull all those resources and make the film that I wanted. Same thing with video games. My wife has a little brother that's only 11, and he's able to design video games now. But he had to learn. We had to get him, a good computer, teach him Python. Or I didn't teach him, but we got him a course online to learn Python. Soon it'll be just inputs, and this is all democratized. You don't have to go to Ivy League school and get an MBA. You don't have to. All of this is available. You just have to figure it out, and people put this information out there so anybody has access to these tools.
Yeah. Fascinating, because basically technology is basically what you described as democratizing. And I actually had that same epiphany the other day, because on Netflix or YouTube, they have now the subtitles, and also on search, and all the messages you get in different languages, it can just auto translate it for you. So, which is fascinating. And really interesting with quantum computing and like 5G, all of these new technologies going to really rapidly increase the rate of innovation and change. So I tell people, if we are thinking now as chaotic, 5, 10, 15 years is going to be even more chaotic. So, get ready. The one thing is that we talk about is influence, the future of influencer marketing in the era of Web3, AI, blockchain. How is that going to change?
I talk a lot about this with friends. I'm still connected to quite a few people in the influencer space. I think that community is going to become even more important. I know this isn't a direct answer to your question, but there was a teacher who was worried that all his kids were using ChatGPT to answer questions and that they weren't actually learning. So he actually had to start doing these interactive classes where he had to have the students speak their answers to make sure they were learning. That might seem like that's a step back, but I think it's a step back in the right direction, where we're forcing human interaction and human engagement. And I think that the ability to create content, you can make a movie now for under $100,000 with just tools that we have now, when that would have been unheard of a long time ago. Maybe in a couple of years, it'll be even less. A great example of that is motion capture suits. So there's these suits that you can buy that turn your body into a green screen, and it captures all your movement. And they're anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000. Well, Sony just put out these rings that you put on each wrist and each ankle, and it measures it for like this, maybe not a full action movie, but for a conversation like this, I could get all my mannerisms and everything. And those are only $400 now instead of 10,000. Along with, computing power and everything that's coming, I think that we'll see people be able to get super creative, and the playing field's a lot more level because it's a lot less expensive.
That's yeah, it's amazing. So what you're talking about is just, the future. It's really exciting. As we come to the end of this, what advice do you have for because what's interesting is you got your freedom early by investing, taking risks, building alternative streams, not working for others, working for yourself. So what advice do you have for new entrepreneurs, people getting on their journey, if it's a Gen Z or, Gen C, what do you have for them?
You have to keep trying. You're going to fail, and it's going to sting. Like, it's going to hit you right in the gut, and it's going to hurt. Like, oh man, I thought this was the one. But you know how many of the ones it took to be, where I am now? Even my wife, I still, try and do a bunch of different things, including trying to write a book with ChatGPT, and now I'm a published author. You just have to keep trying. As long as you're in the game, you have a chance. But when you stop trying, that's when it's over. So the tools are there. You just have to believe in yourself, and you have to give yourself the chance over and over again, because you're going to fail way more often than you win.
Oh yeah, I love that. One quote really interesting was what I recently read from one of my mentors is like, bear markets, don't try to thrive in bear markets, try to build and try to break even and try to plan for the next 5-10 years. And he was saying, if you survive bear markets, because over 95% of your competition will get killed in bear markets. So if you survive, and then at least you make it to the next, you're able to, otherwise if you're dead, you can't play. So,
yeah.
Interesting. So how can people contact you, find your book, follow you, and reach out to you?
So either LinkedIn or Twitter at DT Steele. You can find me there. If you search on Amazon, Daniel Steele, you'll probably come up with a female author, even though it's spelled different. So if you search AI Unhinged, I think you can find the links for my Twitter profile. And happy to connect on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. And for the audience out there, let's thank Daniel for coming onto the show. Really special guest. Done so many amazing things. His book will be in the links in the show notes, as well as you can find him on Twitter and LinkedIn. So with that, thanks so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you for having me.